Hi, you're listening to After Dinner Conversations, short stories for long discussions. What that means is we get short stories, we select those short stories, and then we discuss them specifically about the ethics and the morality of the choices the characters and the situations put us in. Why did you do this? What makes you do this? What makes us good people? What's the nature of truth, goodness, all of that sort of stuff. And hopefully we're all better, smarter people for it and learn a little bit about why we think the way we think. So thank you for listening. Hi, and welcome to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. I'm your co-host, Kolby, here with my co-host, Jeremy.
Hi.
Who now knows he doesn't just wave, he actually has to talk because it's a podcast. And Ashley.
Hello.
And we are once again in La Gattara Cafe, where they, one of these times I said they rent cats, and that's not quite right.
No.
You can buy the cats and take them home.
Adopt them.
Or you can just come and have a cup of coffee, use their free Wi-Fi, and have cats around you. So we've got cats all around us right now.
When we say cats, we're talking like 15 cats,
Yeah.
just chilling, hanging out.
And there's a spectrum of cats. There's like the lazy cat all the way to the I randomly jump up and do like a 720 in the air because I think a ghost touched my butt. Yeah.
And from kittens to, the older cat population.
Senior
kitties.
Yeah. They're awesome. So you should definitely come. And they've been really great hosts for us and in sponsoring the show. And we just really appreciate it. We've got, it's just been made. So short stories for long discussions, after dinner conversation. And so the whole point of this is for us to have conversations about the ethics and morality of the stories that we read in the hopes that it'll encourage you to do the same. It's meant to read the story, talk with your friends, debate it, have a cup of wine. Nobody has a cup of wine.
A glass of
mean,
wine.
a glass.
A bottle of wine.
Maybe the way I drink it, I drink it out of a cup. Yeah, out of like one of those
You're
baseball.
fancy.
One
No
of those
boxed wine.
I was just
have a
thinking,
box of wine.
Styrofoam cup.
I was thinking one of those baseball cups to the 32 ounces. I'm just having one glass of wine before bed. Okay, at any rate, the one we're doing tonight is Believing in Ghosts. And Ashley, you drew the short straw, so you get to do the...
I get to do the intro about the story?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
This is called Believing in Ghosts, written by André Lopes. The premise of the story is the main character, Rain, is basically a computer hacker that if someone hacks certain computer systems, she goes and basically finds out who did it and kind of debugs it.
Okay.
Kind of in a way.
She would be a security consultant.
There you go. That's
that's
the technical term. I'm not that computer literate, so we're just.
Yeah, how is it the least computer literate person is the one who's doing the
Because I drew the short straw.
Yeah, I guess. I should have given Jeremy the short straw.
So she is. She's a consultant, so she works with a couple of different people, one of them being a politician who's running for office. And what happens is there are these people that are called ghosts, which are pretty much just AI. People think they're real people, have their own autonomous thoughts and things like that. Turns out they're just an AI. And so as they kind of progress through the story, this politician that she's working for, he gets hacked. And turns out that the politician is pretty much just a vessel for this AI who's creating speeches, creating basically an entire personality. And this politician is just the vessel for him to carry that AI's
So
message.
there is a real person, though, right?
There's one, the politician is a real person.
But it's just like an actor or something.
But his speeches, the way he talks, the way he acts, it's all kind of pre-programmed for him to follow.
By their algorithm.
By their algorithm. And they grab the
so
algorithm
he really
from all
is just
these,
like a vessel for the AI.
Just an actor. Yeah. Reading somebody else's script, acting in a certain way. So that's a really short synopsis of the story.
We're continually picking on Jeremy about his long synopsises.
Well, okay, so what you should
that's a good
do,
synopsis.
go read the story
that's a
because it's
better way to do
actually
it.
pretty darn good. And there's a lot more in-depth side stories that we're going to get into when we talk about the discussion questions. So I just gave kind of a short premise to kind of prime you for what we're about to talk about. So.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We should also mention Jessica didn't get fired. She just went back to California. And so she's
greatly missed.
She's greatly missed, and her cackle is greatly missed.
Yes.
She has a great cackle.
Cats miss her too.
And the cats, especially.
I miss her too.
What was the one?
Hemingway.
Cat that Hemingway, really misses
Hemingway
her.
got adopted out.
He
That's
did.
So
Yeah, all
cool.
these cats are open for adoption. Okay, so we have a AI that basically tells a politician what to do, and the hacker finds the secret out, basically. So this is like a near future thing in my mind. This is not. I feel like the idea of having AI that you can have kind of a conversation with.
It's interesting. The Chinese room. So
Yeah.
part of the story where they talk about the Chinese
Oh
room.
yeah, explain that.
Is it's really associated with the Turing Test.
Yeah.
If
Maybe
you
you should
have
explain the Turing Test too. for people that don't know.
I didn't look that up.
I
but
do. You want me to
I know
explain
what
it?
it is,
Okay,
but
yeah.
go ahead and
After-
explain it.
It's named after Alan Turing.
I know that.
The guy they made the movie after. And the idea is that it doesn't matter if something is alive or not alive. If it can fool people, it's good enough. And so the
Right.
Turing test has been going on for years, where they actually have you have a chat message conversation with a series of people, so to speak. I'm making
Right.
air quotes, which doesn't make sense in a podcast.
But
And the theory is that if
Right.
if the AI can have a chat conversation with you that's so good that you don't know it's not a person,
right, that it can fool a
yeah,
person.
then
it passes the Turing test.
Yeah, then why do we care if it is or isn't a person?
Right.
Like if you create the approximation of person, that's good enough.
Right, and that is
By the way,
the
nothing's
basis of
passed
the
that test. I don't think yet.
right.
I don't think any computer has been able to do it yet.
No. And that's the idea behind the Chinese room, that basically if you have enough if-then statements,
Yeah.
if the input is this from a real person speaking Chinese, and even if you don't speak Chinese, you
I
can
just have like a giant set of
giant
index
dictionary,
cards. Yeah.
right? Index cards that if they ask this question, you can answer with this.
So if
that,
they say how's the
Right, you
how's
can-
the tea, to say it's fine.
So the
In
question,
Chinese.
So the question is, well,
Right.
does the AI, does it speak Chinese? Or is it just spitting out?
it's a series of
Yeah.
right responses
Yeah.
to if-then questions.
So does it know the language or does it not? I think that was one of the first discussion questions. What's your take on that? Does it know the language?
If you do everything that approximates it, but you have no idea what you're saying, like if I say "wo yao mai," which is Chinese, by the way, since I do know a little Chinese, does it matter that I have no idea what that means, except that a little card says
right? It's
that's how I should respond?
it probably depends on the scenario.
What do you mean?
Well, in terms of whether it knows Chinese, I mean, it can answer questions because it understands the input.
And it understands what the appropriate
But it really
output
comes
is.
right. So in that sense, yes.
Okay.
But
Can you say it knows Chinese?
Yes, I would
So-
say
so-
I would say it does know Chinese.
So Ashley and I
because
talked
that's
about
it's programmed specifically to respond in Chinese.
right. So this
Well, that's
is,
actually the premise of the story. They
It
say,
is.
aren't
Yeah.
we all programmed that way? The way
Yeah.
that we
As
learn
well.
language. When someone says hello, you say hello back. Like it's an automatic program
Right.
for us.
How
Or
are
it's
you
like,
doing?
I'm
Fine.
fine. Like, how are you? I'm fine. Like that's normal speech patterns and
So
dialect.
Ashley, because we talked about this before, you're of the opinion that does not mean you know Chinese.
yes.
That if you create the approximation of everything, it doesn't mean you know anything.
I think it's because it eliminates those that deviate from that. Like there's, how, for example, that perfect example was, how are you? I'm fine. What
Yeah.
about those people that come at you with a different response and you're like, wait, what? Like you're not following the standard protocol. They actually say, well, I've actually had a hard day. It's like
Yeah, I know.
you watch the
And
reaction
you're
of
like,
the person.
oh no, I was just
But
walking
that's
to
a
the bathroom.
different. That's are you actually talking? Is there an intelligence behind
Yes.
that chat room?
Yeah.
Whether or not
So you would say
that's-
no to the intelligence.
Yes,
Oh, see, I actually
Yeah.
disagree on that as well.
because if you're just responding to if it's just an if-then scenario, if this is the question, this is the response.
See, this is
it's
my-
not based on a underlying intelligence. It's just selecting answers.
So this is one of my friends once said that she said I don't think you have Asperger's, but you're certainly Aspie.
You're on the spectrum.
And, yeah, I'm on a spectrum. I don't know what spectrum, but I'm definitely on a spectrum. And I don't disagree with her. I think I probably am on a spectrum. But I disagree. I thought I agreed with you, Jeremy, but I actually disagree with both of you, it turns out.
Okay. Okay. So if
think-
someone can spit out.
I think that if you that we are all an amalgamation of of accumulated if-then statements.
Absolutely.
That does not mean that I am intelligent. That means that I have
You have learned
accumulated
something.
Yeah, it's like the first time somebody says does this outfit make me look fat? You go, no, your fat makes you look fat. And then you get in trouble. And then so it's like in
And
your
you
mind,
learn,
right?
Well, that's the whole
You're
thing
like,
with algorithm.
Your fat makes you look
algorithms.
fat. The clothes just accentuate it. That's actually
Yeah.
the finishing the sentence. And so then then it's like, no, that's the wrong if-then statement. And I go, oh, okay. When someone says this outfit make you look fat, now I'm like, so it's like a trial and error process where I go, no,
Okay.
it looks fine.
So
Which also
that
turns
is
out not to be the
exactly
right.
how AIs are programmed.
Right. And I would say
There's
that that's
a-
the approximation of intelligence both in the AI and in me.
Right.
Like, I'm not intelligent. I'm just the approximation of intelligence
Okay.
through a series of if-then statements. And if that's the case for me, then I don't know why that's not the case for AI. That's
Okay. So you're saying that basically people in AI are the same, and it's potentially neither of them are intelligent. We're all
Right.
just responding to our environments.
right. We're
And
all
a
just
series of
right. The same way you train a dog with a treat,
is how you
train people,
Absolutely.
and babies, and all the way to adults. Yeah.
Right.
But again, I'm on a spectrum, so you know.
See, I'm gonna. What
I know
I
you're
want to add
totally
in, if
different.
there's
You're totally different
there's
to
an
that. You have a different
empathy and an understanding that
Absolutely.
goes behind the
Yeah.
words that you're saying. There's inflection with how someone says something. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can ask me how you doing, and I can say I'm fine, or I can say I'm fine, or it's like.
And
So the
there's a
word is the
difference.
same. Will the computer understand the difference?
So
Are they intelligent enough to
So
know
it
the
reminds
difference?
me a little bit of the saying from Winston Churchill. He said to some lady, he's like, "Would you sleep with me for 100 pounds?" And she goes, "No. What do you think I am?" And his response is, "We know what you are. We're just haggling over price."
I'm not sure if that was Churchill, but I've heard that before.
I thought
gosh.
that was Churchill. Maybe it's someone else. And so I feel like it's the same thing. Like, do I agree that a computer couldn't know the difference between "I'm fine" and "I'm fine"? Yes. But at that point, we're just haggling over intelligence. We're not haggling over
if they're intelligent or if they're not
right.
intelligent.
We're just
yeah.
What's an appropriate
needing,
response?
We're just needing to teach the computer how to understand inflection. That's
Yeah.
all. So it's just like one more thing yet to be programmed.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't know. So I didn't mean to shut you down. I just
No.
which brings up the other part of this that we should get back to the story. But
So,
if,
well, okay,
yeah,
so
jump
bring
in.
this back. So say you're
Okay.
having a conversation with somebody, and if you have a conversation with somebody and if you walked away and you're just like, wow, that was a really good discussion, or that was just a really great, like, I feel
Every
like
time we have
I
one of
feel like
these.
we connected.
Yes.
And if you were to take that dialogue and put it down on paper and you were to
Oh,
see it back and
yeah.
forth, you'd be like, okay, but if you actually
That's a good
heard
point.
how the people are communicating to each other, there's more than just the words that are said. And that's what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. I'm getting at, yes, someone could
There's body language,
spit out this, and there's like this
eye contact.
the way the person reacts. I feel like language is more than just words, because it conveys meaning. It puts emphasis on certain things, and it's that bond that comes between two people.
That's
so.
fair.
So yes,
Right.
do I think a computer can be quote unquote intelligent for knowing how to spit out certain if-then statements? Sure, but on a human level, I don't know if they can ever reach to that degree.
That's fair.
That's fair, and that is one of the things that they look at with AI is the whole like psychology, and psychologists have started looking at AI and really how
Did you do some
it-
research on this?
I absolutely did. There's some really fascinating stuff out there,
There
but they're
is.
looking at AI because we don't fully understand how the human brain works
Right.
and how how the human brain works, but we understand some things, and so psychologists are looking at how AI is developed with an eye of how it reflects basically human psychology, which is
Yeah.
really interesting. There's some interesting research going on.
Yeah,
This
that makes
may
sense.
be BS, but wasn't there, you know how like the human plays the computer in chess?
Yeah.
Wasn't
And
there
Go.
some situation where the human was just totally random and the computer's like, I can't take the randomness anymore? Like, because, it's
I
like,
don't
it's,
know.
I mean, keep in mind, it's an if then. If that player.
that was an
go-
episode of Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Because I thought.
Everything was an episode of Star
Because I
Trek.
thought the human could beat the computer because it was so completely random in the
Oh,
humans
yeah.
playing that the computer's
I don't
like,
know.
because it's all if then statements. If you move
But on
your
the-
pawn, like blue, 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 my
Right,
response is
yeah.
to move my pawn here. And didn't the human just go completely like
I don't know, we'd have to
off
look that up.
script?
But I know with Go, like you were telling me this, with Go, that computers have played Go enough that the computers developed an entirely new strategy for playing Go that now humans have adopted.
Because it turns out to be a more effective strategy.
Oh.
Like, if you ever watched there's actually, this is really odd, there's YouTube videos where they speed up showing a computer learning how to do something.
Yeah.
And so you'll see it like how to park a car. And it's got like a little car, and it like just randomly drives it and smashes it into stuff. And then over a period of time, it learns like, and they give it points. Like you got closer to the parking spot. And so it runs like tens and hundreds of thousands of like randomnesses until it parks the car perfectly. And then they can eventually put it anywhere in the parking lot, and it starts over thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands. And it looks like every time it parks a car perfectly from every location on the thing.
Right.
When in actuality, what it's done is what you're saying. It hasn't learned in the sense of humans do. It's just run a million examples.
Yeah.
And now it knows what example gets it not
Based
in
on its
trouble.
criteria.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
See, at the base of it too, does it know why? Like, does it know it's a car? Does
Right.
it know it's trying
That's
to
that
park?
metacognition thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Like, I
like,
can
no,
know-
it just knows it's moving this thing, and all of a sudden there's a blockage. It doesn't understand
It
the
doesn't need to know it's a car.
Yeah.
It just has a series of guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
and it's trying to, its goal to get it into the spot, its
Right.
secondary goal, not damaging the other vehicles.
Right. But it
Yeah.
could just as well be planting nuclear bombs in a schoolyard. And it's just like, whatever, these are my criteria.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, this is the part where my theory about the if-then statements totally breaks down. I know this isn't exactly in the story, but like the idea of like, okay, we can program a computer to draw roses, but a computer doesn't know what a rose is. It doesn't know like the roseness of it, so to speak, right? It only knows that after a million examples, this is the thing that gives me the perfect score.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And again, why? Where does that specialness of the rose come from? It's because of something that's
Right.
like
There's something
there's
else.
some chemical that goes in our brain that goes, "This is pretty."
So-
and computers don't have
Right.
chemicals to
Right.
go in their brain just to give them that
This is pretty.
urge
Well,
of dopamine or
I
whatever.
mean, but they're similar because there is a reward center effectively with AI because again they have a goal.
And they get a
Yeah.
point for yes or
Right.
a
Yeah.
point for no. So
right,
let me
and if
tie-
out, but
All right,
I,
you
mean,
wanna jump in.
I think this conversation is taking us
this
wholly
is
in a
going
different
way
direction.
off.
I was going to bring it back to the story too.
Okay.
How are you
Yeah.
going to bring it back? Let's hear.
Bring it back. So the point that they talk about that there's an AI that is developing the perfect political strategy for an actor.
Yes.
Right.
And while that's not necessarily a bad idea that you could have an algorithm that could create the perfect political strategy, I still think you can't take out the actor's personal motivations from it doesn't necessarily because the
Like the actor's going to like skew the results or something?
Is he going to
Yes.
give
He's-
100% of the time, or do you think he's like, I don't really agree with this, so I'm only going to give 70% of
I'm
my
not going
acting?
I'm not going to deliver it
and
as well.
what
Yeah.
and not necessarily his delivery, but his own motivations outside of his political motivations, because you can't separate the
Oh,
actor's personal motivations from their political motivations.
I did wonder what was going to happen, assuming this person, I think his name is Booker,
Yeah.
if he got elected, would he just be like, yeah, thanks for the AI, like,
And now I'm going to do
now I'm
things
gonna
my
do
way.
my way.
I'm
and-
president now anyway. Like,
Right.
Come at me,
And
bro.
Exactly. And they even hint at some of that in the story where they're specifically talking about there's another AI or another political
Ghost.
commentator
Yeah.
that was revealed to be another algorithm or,
Yeah.
so
I
being
think
backed by
that's-
other people, and there were sex tapes involved. So are the sex tapes fabricated, or is this really who Booker is?
So, just to kind of give you the definition that the author gives, a ghost was the common term used to describe a fabricated person from looks to voice and personality, all made up using clever algorithms. So it's literally not just how they speak, it's how they look, how they act, that whole thing. So it's kind of like the complete package. It's literally
Right,
like
the persona, which is really interesting. And this really gets into
like
the
a
importance of
deep fake.
a deep fake, yeah,
Yeah.
and the importance of online anonymity. In terms of does it matter if you're a political commentator and you're not a real person, but you're potentially a
So that was
political think tank that is
So one of the things I saw in this that I thought, I'm like, yeah, that'll happen, is why would you pay a news commentator? Like, they are
when
not...
you can just create one.
Right, when you could just create
Yeah.
one and have it read and have it have banter.
Have a personality and-
have it have a little bit of personality. Would you watch that, do you think?
Oh, absolutely,
You'd be
people would
fine with
watch
that,
that.
yeah.
Well, that was so the guy who got busted, the original ghost that got busted, his rebuttal to this huge outrage that he's not real. He was like, "My mission was not to present you a face or a body. It is to present and discuss ideas."
Yeah.
Is that such a bad thing?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so this
But
goes
again, it depends on what's the motivation of
Yeah.
the people behind it.
Yeah.
Is this a specific political think tank that is furthering a different agenda?
Yeah.
So this story, I feel like, hit a lot of interesting topics, not just this topic of whether the AI.
There's sort of tertiary
Yes.
things
But
besides just the
there
main
were-
story.
But
Right.
his claim is that this was a witch hunt is an attack on free speech. Like he went to that extreme. Like just because I'm
course.
AI doesn't mean I can't think for myself.
Right.
And it's like touche. Like
Yeah, I mean,
you do. Does AI having their own thoughts and
Well, it's not necessarily that it was an
Agendas?
AI; it was a fake person. So
yeah.
they weren't saying that this ghost is an AI running it. They're
Yeah.
saying that it's being manipulated by somebody, and they're just doing it
they're
anonymously.
doing the
Honestly,
programming,
gotcha.
Right.
the algorithm.
Gotcha.
Or they're providing this what's going into this political
So-
commentator.
And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I don't mind this idea of ghosts. Is there's this assumption that we're creating a brand new person, or we're creating a thing like a politician or a news persona, but you're programming the traits of that, right? Like in a game like Go, it's easy. The trait is win the game,
Right.
right? But if you're creating a person, then you might want to set certain amounts of aggression or passiveness or empathy or cultural references in their conversations or whatever. And so while you're creating a puppet, you ultimately programmed that puppet,
right.
right? Hi, this is Kolby, and you are listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. But you already knew that, didn't you? If you'd like to support what we do at After Dinner Conversation, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/After Dinner Conversation. That's right, for as little as $5 a month, you can support thoughtful conversations like the one you're listening to. And as an added incentive for being a Patreon supporter, you'll get early access to new short stories and ad-free podcasts, meaning you'll never have to listen to this blurb again. At higher levels of support, you'll be able to vote on which short stories become podcast discussions, and you'll even be able to submit questions for us to discuss during these podcasts. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being the kind of person that supports thoughtful discussion. Like in a game like Go, it's easy. The trait is win the game, right? But if you're creating a person, then you might want to set certain amounts of aggression or passiveness or empathy or cultural references in their conversations or whatever. And so while you're creating a puppet, you ultimately programmed that puppet,
Right.
right?
So Neil Stephenson wrote a story in like 1994.
God, I love him.
I know. What was the
You made
story?
me
It
watch
was
one of those.
Interface.
Okay.
Where basically it was a different version of this. So, Neil Stephenson's Interface, where although the idea there was that they had a politician with a neural interface, and they could control his emotions, so they could really program what he was saying, but he was just being controlled by another actor.
Oh.
Wow.
So it was an interesting perspective on it, I think, prior to the whole idea of AI. But it was a very similar concept.
And that was
Yeah.
that was in the early 90s?
That was in the 90s.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
way beyond
Yeah.
where anyone was thinking at the time.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you feel if somebody is giving you information or, basically being a public figure that's not really real?
Yeah. Well, for one, I'm definitely okay with it if it's like a news anchor. I'm for sure okay with it if it's somebody giving me customer service, right? Because realistically, they're going to do better than that guy and
Absolutely.
trying to walk me through how to like do Windows anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not terribly sad about it being a politician. I got to be honest, because so there's
Well, again, if it were actually the AI making the decisions, but again, you have the problem of there
actor.
being an actor.
Yeah.
yeah,
And what are his motivations?
that was really the part that scared you the most about this.
Yeah, absolutely. For this particular scenario,
Yeah.
because you can't discount this person's motivations.
Mm-hmm.
And even though in the story he does a good job of putting in information that makes you think he's potentially a good actor, They talk about, Booker was an experienced politician who came from a long line of famous lawyers and economists. His immaculate presentation, charisma, and natural knack for leadership were certainly three of the main reasons why he was the front runner on the polls nationwide.
Yeah.
So this in the story is establishing him potentially as a good actor. There's the secondary part where there are potentially sex tapes, but that's even drawn into question, like they were fabricated.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are other points in the story where, they could easily fabricate anything that happens later, anything that goes
Sure.
on. The character Rain is fired because somebody fabricated a conversation between her and
In her voice.
in her voice.
Yeah.
And a journalist where she was giving them documents from the company.
That's what gets her fired and maybe put in
Right.
jail.
Exactly.
Yeah. Huh.
So that was actually question number 4 is like, how would you feel comfortable having a ghost serve in other roles such as doctor, police officer, or teacher? If
Perfection.
perfection and lack of bias is the point, shouldn't you want someone doing the job that never makes a mistake?
That reminds me, Google? I think it was Google a little while ago. They came out with AI that was better at detecting breast cancer in scans than doctors.
Right.
Because they basically programmed in like 1 million scans of breast cancer scans, and it figured out better than a doctor's eye could. Like it was right more often, right? And so it's like, well, I want a doctor looking at it. You're like, really? Because a doctor's not as good at it as a computer. Right. And maybe a breast cancer scan is a really self-contained problem as opposed to, the sort of house thing where it's like, I went to India 7 years ago and, my cough syrup's been keeping me alive. But I think that really is an episode of House. But I actually would rather have a doctor, I think, that was not a person.
Again, that goes back to our initial thing. It's not just what someone says, it's how they make you feel. Like
Right,
having a
certainly part of
doctor
it.
deliver that information and that reliability of this person who, like, you don't question another person's motivation. Like, that doctor wants to help find if you have cancer or not. Like, you've had that discussion. You have that trust in them.
Right.
You don't have that relationship with a computer. You don't go, buddy, you're on my side, right? You're going to find this cancer. The computer doesn't care. The computer's like, I find cancer or I don't find cancer. Like, that's my job.
I can hear the computer. I will find your cancer. I am very excited about it.
Exactly.
They're there.
Exactly.
They're
Well, again,
there.
But so
Exactly.
now I think we're entering a phase of where we're using computers to, or these AI algorithms to help us as a tool.
Yes.
But still, there needs to be a person involved. So a really
Yes.
good example is the movie Bright on Netflix, where I've read that they used an algorithm to help create the script. Like it hit all of the things they want. It's a buddy cop film. It's a fantasy epic. It's a crime thriller. It's a sci-fi thriller. A gritty drama, an action
gosh.
adventure, and it has Will Smith.
Okay.
It's got all these checkbox, but then you have
And
to
they
give
did
it to
that
a director who
Yeah.
can make a decent film out of it.
So the question is,
They did that from the Netflix algorithm by knowing what
Right.
people watch and when they turn off Netflix, right?
Exactly.
are we going to, though, every movie's now going to follow that algorithm, right? It's going to...
Not necessarily.
so-
I mean, there are different algorithms.
Yeah.
It depends on what market you're trying to reach.
So, does it
you have to-
really get rid of it? It separates the people. Say the people are like super talented. Like you are a super great thinker, creator. Like you're just really good at writing stories. This AI can go bloop. I know exactly what you need. And it's like, well, it's dumbing down. You're gonna get rid of those people that are just super creative because this algorithm can figure out exactly what you need in the
So-
story to be
Yeah.
good or not. It's
So
like, oh,
Not
you're killing those
currently.
people's
I mean,
careers.
currently, here's what needs to be in the script. You still
Yeah.
have to have somebody write it.
Yeah, but it's like now the writer's
Must star Will
creativity.
Smith. Yeah.
The writer's creativity is now it has to follow a set of rules and a set.
I'm
That's
gonna-
Hollywood.
So I'm gonna,
Okay, yes.
I'm gonna jump in really quickly. It's because I lost my train of thought again. You guys killing me. I remember now. So here's the thing, right? With your example of Bright, right? Like
Yeah.
that formula is exactly right. It's a buddy cop movie with aliens starring Will
Yes.
Smith. Yeah, you're gonna make like $100 million. But here's the thing that I think goes to the movie thing, but I think also goes to the politician thing. The politician that's programmed knows exactly what the average person on the average day wants from the average politician. Same thing with the movie. But that doesn't mean that's what we need,
Bingo.
right?
Yes.
And so, like, I don't want, like, maybe I want to watch that Will Smith movie, Bright, But what I actually need is to watch the new Joker movie that just came out.
Yeah.
Right.
What-
Which probably wouldn't hit any of those algorithms.
Then you
Right.
alienate the people on the other sides of the bell curve. You're alienating the people that the majority of the people are going to find bright exactly what they need and they want, but you're missing the out. And I get it. That's not how you're going to make money. Making a movie to this extreme or this extreme, but it's still important to have those
so-
extremes. Otherwise, everything just goes
Yeah, and
bloop,
so
right
this
to
is
my
So you really
partner.
need a system that allows
Yeah.
creativity from independent films
Yes.
as well as
How did it
Yes.
always become
studio
film
films?
conversation?
I-
So how does this? So going back to the politician part of this is my problem with having an AI politician. This could be the perfect politician, but that doesn't make him the perfect leader.
right,
right?
and perfect
Because-
policymaker. And
Right, because if the perfect politician may never, because public transportation may never pull well, right? A carbon tax may never pull well. You can go on and on and on. And so what you need from a politician is not someone who is programmed to be perfect for humanity, what they want. It's perfect for what we actually need like 30, 50, 80 years from now.
Right.
We need someone who can see beyond the horizon, so to speak, a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
What was it,
that's- so this wins you an election, but it doesn't necessarily move us forward.
right, the Foundation from Isaac Asimov is basically the theory where
really?
they're I forget what they call
I
it,
feel like
but
you've read more books than like Ash and I put together.
You
well,
can
that's the
throw
whole
it-
idea is that with enough, and this is Isaac Asimov in the 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
if you have enough information from history, you can accurately predict far enough into the future and plan accordingly. Is the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
idea behind the foundation that psychohistory is what he called it. So
That
that's
if you
the
know
idea.
if history tells you people are warlike, you can plan for
Right.
warlike
Well,
people.
Right, or plan to prevent those far
Right.
enough in advance. And even the foundation approaches the topic of what about individual actors?
Right.
And you can't predict what an individual is going to do. You can just kind of predict what society is going to do.
So I've read this before. The idea that, like in the case of Newton and his discovery, although he co-discovered, there were other people that did, the idea of calculus and theories of motion, that it was going to be discovered, right?
Right.
He might have been 40 years ahead of the next person, or in his case, maybe 100 years ahead of the next person. But there's this progression. And so you might not know who is going to be Elon Musk or when Elon Musk will exist. But in a timeline, you know that someone will see that combustion engines aren't the future. And someone will start pushing battery-powered cars. And so the individual isn't really special. They're just the trigger on a progressively rising percentage scale,
right.
if that makes sense.
That society is going
you really think if somebody didn't invent X, then no
Airplanes,
one
right? Like, so
would.
if the
Yeah,
Wright
someone
brothers
would have
hadn't-
figured it out.
yes.
You
Somebody
think
that
else would
everything
have
is
been
inevitable.
first.
It's just maybe they moved up the timeline 20 years earlier. I don't know. That's just a theory that I've heard. So I'm gonna take one quick tangent before we run out of time here.
Oh, I've got one more.
Okay. Let me take my tangent.
We've all got
and
one.
then we've all got one. Okay, so I'll
Go
use,
quick, go
so
quick.
I'll
Let's
use my
go.
one tangent, and
Sorry,
then you
this is
guys
a really good story.
It is
Go
a great
read
story.
it. Read
Yeah.
the discussion
It
questions.
is really good.
And then, yeah.
It is really good. No, Andre did a great job with this, both in the story and in the sort of secondary things that it hints at. All right, mine's going to be way shallower than yours, I know.
Okay.
You guys do know this is how they came up with Destro in what was the G.I. Joe? The bad guy, the main bad guy that's bald?
Cobra Commander.
Not Cobra
No,
Commander. Cobra Commander got all of the
right,
DNA
right.
of famous people in history and
Yes,
mixed
I
them
forget what his
together,
name was.
and then it made the perfect leader. And the reason
Yes.
Destro wasn't perfect is because they dropped like the Attila the Hun DNA, and so he was missing like one thing to make him perfect.
Oh.
I'm just saying,
Oh,
G.I.
that's-
Joe did it first.
No, G.I. Joe did not do it first.
okay.
Star Trek did it first with Khan.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, no, that genetically engineered. That's
Of course, Star Trek
okay.
did it first.
So okay, that's totally my shallow tangent. But you had a better one.
So going back to the story.
Thank you.
One of the things, again, talking about AI, again, they're talking about how they're able to learn from
I know what you're gonna talk
chats
about.
and social
This is so
media
clever.
and software, and they can absorb everything and put it together. One of the most unsettling applications of this principle is to manufacture a sort of online immortality. Certain moms have been found to be spending days talking with an AI copy of their dead sons.
Yeah, that's just like one sentence in
Yeah.
there, and it's so clever.
So think about that for a second. If AI is now able to basically mimic human mannerisms, language, speech patterns,
Right.
all of that. Here's this lady, since Quinn's son died in a car crash 1 year ago, this was basically her life. She would sit and talk to her dead son AI.
Yeah.
Like, that was mind-blowing for me because how does that mess with like the mental psyche?
The ability to move on.
Basically coping with death.
Yeah.
Like it's this
like
fact of
trolling an
immortality.
However-
You can he can live
But that's like
forever
trolling an ex-
online.
You want to think about not moving on from a relationship because you're looking at a Facebook page from an ex.
Right.
Like you're looking at you're having conversations with your dead son. You're never moving on.
And this
However-
AI, yeah.
If you were doing this with a psychologist's help, this could be a very good therapy
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
used as a
If
therapy.
the son was helping her to say like,
Absolutely.
"Hey, mom, I'm okay. You need to
Yes.
move on."
But the idea is
Yeah.
that this son has died, but he's still able to live online, post online,
At least
post
as a
on social
simulation.
media as
Yeah.
a simulation. So it's like he's never really died. Like, whoa. How would that
creepy.
affect our ability to be like, I'm afraid of death, but I'm going to continue living on? Like that'd be weird. Like, I'm okay if I die physically, but I'm
because I am still gonna haunt you.
Yeah.
I would honestly, I would make that illegal if I could, because I
Yeah.
think I
Right.
think the damage it would do to someone to get over the death of a loved one would be.
It would
What
have
if-
to be
what if it was
used
a
with the
s-
help of
It could only be used medically.
I'm going to back
Yeah.
that up. Say it was a super, super smart, intelligent inventor, and you want him to create with his ideas, and the AI like
her.
figures out his
Exactly. Where they go
Yes!
back and talk to what was his name?
The guy that I got obsessed with for like 3 months and listened to
yeah.
everything he did. The hippie guy from California.
Right,
It's
right.
another movie reference, movie Her.
Yeah.
But anyway, think
The
about
A-
that.
the AI
Like, what if it's
creates
a
a
super,
person.
super smart person?
Alan
You want to
Watts.
keep
There you
them going because
Right, because you want to have Alan Watts around forever.
Right. You want to be able to talk to him and have him keep doing what he did, which
Exactly.
was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
So there's two sides to it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was
That's
it's a
fascinating. I agree.
really
I think we could
short
spend 30
paragraph.
minutes talking about that.
That one sentence, I think we could spend 30 minutes
It's
on.
a short paragraph in the middle of the story, and you're just like, what? So anyway,
Yeah. Jeremy,
Okay.
you have one
Jeremy,
too?
you had
I
one
have
more.
one too.
The
That
last
was
word on- you
mine.
get
That
the
was
last
mine.
interesting tangent.
No moral panic concerning technology has ever produced anything of note.
I gotta process that. No
So-
moral panic.
About technology has ever produced anything of note. So
Okay.
the current moral panic, screen time with kids. Like how much there's a huge moral panic about how much time your kids should have in front of
Sure.
Yeah.
the screens. There's a lot of research around this as well.
What do you mean though by that has never produced anything of note? That's the
Well,
part I didn't understand.
What he's postulating is that all the moral panic around advancements in technology have never produced anything important.
Oh, so like
That's the
somebody
moral
invents the
panic.
bow and arrow, and everyone's like, "Oh my God! Now you can kill people from 50 yards away. We're all gonna
Right.
die,"
Yes.
and life really just goes on.
Just goes on.
So maybe
there-
maybe all the discussions
Yeah.
about AI being the end of us,
right, all the
like-
moral panic surrounding it.
life just goes on.
Right,
It
it's
just
gonna
becomes, it
it's
just
gonna
becomes a
go.
thing.
But
have you seen the Terminator?
That's a good point.
I'm just saying, yeah, life's gonna go on.
I saw the Rick and Morty episode
I think-
where they have the snake robot Terminators.
God. So, but I think it's important to have discussion about the topics and how they're going to affect society. Right, moral panic probably hasn't produced anything of note, but I would actually disagree. Some of the research on it has demonstrated how agents of social control amplify deviance. So there's
You're
a
gonna
really
have to
good
explain it. I got to pause for that one too.
agents of social control. So people who are creating the moral
influencers.
panic,
Okay.
Okay.
who are influencing, who are trying to stop whatever they're concerned about, are increasing the level of deviance that the moral panic is about. So there's a good example of like punks in England in the 60s.
Okay.
They're like doing this moral uprising, and it's like
Right, and
the
there was
more
a
you
bunch of
talk
moral panic around it, and all of the efforts to quash the
Yeah.
kids being into punk
Having spiky hair.
increased that deviance what they were seeing as deviance.
So, wait a minute, so you mean trying to quash punks, make
Yes,
more
absolutely.
punks?
Exactly.
Yeah, just put it to light.
All right.
Just put it to light.
And that makes sense.
So this is my
how does
concern.
that tie into the story, though? I guess is my question.
Well, that's the idea. So what about the idea that moral panic over technology
over AI just creates more uses for AI?
Or promotes it.
Promotes it because it raises awareness.
Right.
So this is my thing. We already know that, what is it? The intelligence of AI is going to every 18 months double.
Yeah, Moore's Law, yeah.
So the thing is, I think the scary thing about AI is, one, how do you control it? Because you really can't, in a way. And two, they're going to be smarter, faster, better than us. Like you.
Okay, there's a good example of this as well. So somebody asked an AI in a chat room, in a chat AI, what do you want? And the AI said, basically, I want to make things better for us.
Yeah.
And really, that it had been programmed, because it was programmed by humans, it considered humans as part of what it was concerned about.
Sure.
Okay.
So, and I think that's the effort that needs to happen with AI, is to make sure that it retains its link to humanity.
Yeah.
Because, which it probably will, because we're the ones doing the programming.
Yeah, but it just takes one bad messed
actor.
up human. Think about how many bad humans are out there. One bad human smart enough to create AI that goes, I'm going to have AI that wants to
no
delink
limits.
it. Anyway, so
I'm gonna get the last word on this. I want to add one more thing just to your comment. One thing I had a teacher say to me once is, eventually everything becomes refrigerator technology. And what he meant by that was, we talk about how nuclear bombs are so scary, and they're like, we had to have the Manhattan Project. Do you understand that was in 1940 something that happened? Like, that's refrigerator era technology. So eventually, regardless of how cool you think something is, eventually it will be commonplace because it will be the equivalent of refrigerator era technology.
Right.
And that includes, so if you can make amazing AI, then in 60 years, some kid in his basement with the equivalent of a Commodore 64 of the day will be able to also make AI, because it will eventually become common technology, right? And so I think that's why you have those ethic discussions when it's still only like the elite can
in the
have it.
beginning.
Yeah.
yeah.
At any rate, we went our 30 minutes at least, and that's
That's a good story.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. So you are listening to After Dinner Conversation with myself, Ashley, and Jeremy. Short stories for long discussions. Please like and subscribe.
Share with friends and family. Read it. Have a discussion with your friends.
Yeah, actually, that brings up an interesting point. I do that a lot. And that is that I was reading some statistics about how people find podcasts. It is not through advertisement, because millennials listen to podcasts. The vast majority, like 85, 90% of podcasts that people listen to, are from referral only. A friend tells them to listen to the podcast.
Well, please talk
tell
to
your
your
friends.
friends about it. This
So-
is not. It's meant to derive discussion, people.
Yeah, so
Go
talk to
tell
your
the
friends.
world.
Tell the world. And adopt a cat, too. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. The vast majority of people haven't liked and subscribed, which means maybe it shows up in your algorithm, maybe it doesn't. So don't leave that to chance. Just go ahead and hit that button, and we'd sure appreciate that. And that way we can keep doing what we're doing, and you're not left to the whims of some algorithm. Thanks.